Here's the entire story of absolute Batman. Bruce Wayne grew up in a working-class family in the impoverished neighborhood of Crime Alley. Bruce was born in 2004 in Gotham City to social worker Martha Wayne and elementary school teacher Thomas Wayne. As a child, Bruce attended his father's school and formed lifelong friendships with the likes of Waylon, Ozzy, Harvey, Eddie, and Selina. Around 2014, at the age of 10, Bruce entered the statewide Young Engineers competition, which was held at the Gotham Zoo. The task was to design a collapsible bridge for use in a disaster area themed around an animal, and Bruce chose to base his design on bats. With Bruce being inspired by bats' intimidating appearances, Bruce's initial design was strong and imposing with high guardrails shaped like a bat's wing. This was so that people inside of it would feel protected, and when Bruce had showed this to his father Thomas Wayne, his father did not seem to like it. And Thomas had then raised the question that if this was for people in need, would intimidation really be a factor that would be good here? So Bruce then came up with an improved design which contained multiple adjustable parts, which was much more versatile, which was also inspired by bats because of how adaptable they are, and Thomas liked this new design much better. But Thomas still made Bruce question if he believed that he had truly captured what made bats special at its core. Inspired by what his father had told him, Bruce had realized that he had been approaching it wrong and should have been thinking about what the people who used the bridge needed, and not what the bridge needed to be. Bruce came up with a new design that combined the best elements of the two previous ones, and it was also lightweight enough to be airdropped into devastated areas. And this was so that people could deploy it themselves for their own needs without needing to rely on anything. And without Bruce even intending to, he had just created the blueprint of the bat suit. Bruce had won the competition with his final design, winning a field trip for his 5th grade class to go to the Gotham Zoo. The morning of the visit was the happiest day of Bruce's life. However, the zoo was attacked by a mass shooter. Bruce's father, who had been chaperoning the trip at the time, ushered all of the children into the bat enclosure and tackled the gunman himself, saving all of the children at the cost of his own life. Bruce was left trapped in the bat enclosure with his father's dead body blocking the door for hours. He was swarmed by the bats and covered by the creatures until Jim Gordon came in and found him. That night when he was taken home, Bruce shut himself away in his room and refused to see his mother or friends. Bruce had angrily threw his first place medal from the competition out of the window, blaming it for his father's death. This is when Selina had climbed in through his window with the medal that he had just thrown out and told him to come with her. Selina had led Bruce across the rooftops of the city and taught him how to walk in a tightrope, telling him to be like a cat and only look at what was in front of him, not what could happen if he would fall. This is when Selina had led Bruce to a movie theater which was playing an old movie named Zorro, which his father had actually wanted to go see that very night. Bruce had almost left, but Selina had stopped him, saying that he had talents that other kids didn't and that he could use what happened to him to mean something. But only if Bruce could ignore his fears and push forwards. And this is when Bruce's friends were then seen waiting for them. And this is when Bruce and his group of friends had watched the movie together, having a great time. The shooter, who was identified as Joe Chill, was arrested and found guilty for the murder of Thomas Wayne. And during the sentencing of Joe Chill, Bruce had stated that he will never be happy like he was during the morning of that field trip again, leading to Bruce screaming at Joe Chill that he hated him, before then leaving before Chill could even give his statement. And at Thomas Wayne's funeral, Gordon had told Bruce that his father had been one of the only true brave people that he has ever seen. And a huge spotlight was then built called the Memorial Light, which would illuminate the night sky every year during the anniversary of the shooting. And shortly after his father's funeral, Bruce had a nightmare that Chill had broken into their home and killed Martha. And after seeing that his mother was fine, they then began talking about Bruce's father, with Martha saying that Thomas was always hopeful even in the worst times, and that she was proud of Bruce for not letting his grief consume him and turn against the world. Martha had stated that the only way they could stop bad things from happening was to use their pain to fuel them. Bruce was deeply traumatized by his father's death, spending his adolescence as a juvenile delinquent, with Bruce even dropping out of high school. But eventually, Bruce had developed a plan for a mission to strike back against the violence and injustice in Gotham. Bruce had returned to school where he excelled academically and even earned a football scholarship to the best university in the state. Bruce then faked an injury to get out of playing and devoted himself to studying every object he would need in his mission. And after graduation, Bruce had returned to Gotham and started working as a utilities engineer to become familiar with the hidden tunnels and ducts of the city. Bruce then became an intern at City Hall in order to understand the policies that drove Gotham. Operating out of a garage, Bruce had armed himself with a gun and fashioned a suit with a mask in order to disguise himself. Bruce went out as a vigilante. Bruce had modeled the suit after a bat and designed it to be as frightening as possible, complete with fangs and claws. And during Bruce's first mission, he had took on a crime alley street gang called the 10 Thieves, who were shaking down residents for protection money. Bruce had attacked the thieves and tried to terrify the thieves when he hissed and screeched like a bat. Bruce had slashed them with his claws and had even bit one. He overpowered the thieves and pulled out a gun to execute their leader. But this is when Bruce had remembered his discussion with his father about his first bridge design and realized that his first theatrical approach was all wrong. Bruce returned to the garage and destroyed his costume and gun. He started to work on a more subdued suit. As Bruce then realized that eliminating street-level criminals like 10 Thieves wouldn't achieve anything, as another group would simply take their place. Bruce instead decided to shut down the Orange Blossom Special, a pipeline of illegal guns and drugs into Gotham from Florida, which was ran by Maronis and Falcones. And Bruce had managed to stop one of these shipments inside of produce trucks owned by crooked businessman Randall Powers. Bruce had beat up the criminals for transporting them, and this felt like a better approach, but he had realized that the Maronis and Falcones were far too big and enmeshed in the city's elite to take down one shipment at a time. Bruce then left Gotham on a soul-searching journey to try and work out what the core of Batman should be. And Bruce had ultimately decided that the only way to solve the city's problems would be to take the fight directly to the rich and powerful. So when Bruce had eventually returned, he had forced himself to visit his parents' killer in prison and listen to what he had to say. And after this meeting with his parents' killer, Bruce had finally took a job as a civil engineer, with Bruce utilizing the abandoned upper floors of the skyscrapers that he had helped build as a base, as well as Bruce developing several weapons and gadgets to use to fight crime, including a bat-themed battle axe and throwing knives, as well as Bruce officially becoming known as the Batman. Bruce had also planted listening devices and booby traps in the buildings that he had worked on. Bruce had established dozens of underground caves around Gotham and was even able to conceal at least one giant armored Batmobile, which was in a hidden chamber at the bottom of an office building. There was a gang known as the Party Animals, and their horrific crimes traumatized the people of Gotham and raised the murder rate 700%. And although Bruce affected to not care, he had hunted them as Batman. Bruce had somehow learned that an elite intelligence operative named Alfred Pennyworth had come to investigate the Party Animals and to engage and even kill Bruce if he had gotten in the way of this assignment. Bruce had then proceeded to trail Alfred back to his base in the city and steal his motorcycle. And when the Party Animals attacked a town meeting held by Jim Gordon, who was now the mayor of Gotham, Bruce was ready for them. The Party Animals were able to shoot Gordon, but they were dragged out of City Hall before they could then hurt anybody else. And despite being significantly outnumbered and outgunned, Batman was able to fight them off due to his mastery of multiple martial arts. However, eventually their leader had called Batman out and attacked him with a cleaver, but Bruce had sliced his hand off with an axe. And after the Batman had done this, the Party Animals had fled directly into an explosive trap Bruce had laid. However, Alfred had then come down and ordered Bruce to surrender, leveling a shotgun directly at his head, but Bruce had easily disarmed him and escaped. The very next night, Alfred had trailed Bruce back to his headquarters in the empty top floor of a skyscraper and told him that he was shutting him down. And Bruce had then pulled out Alfred's shotgun, and Alfred had confidently predicted that Bruce was not going to shoot him. But he was wrong. Bruce had shot Alfred directly in the face. This did not kill him, however, as Bruce had modified the gun to be non-lethal. Bruce then drove off the top of the building on Alfred's motorcycle, revealing that he had known Alfred was following him since he had come to Gotham, as Batman then glided away to safety using the wings on his cape. At this point, Batman has waged a continuous one-man war on the Party Animals for the next 3 weeks, and eventually the Party Animals had found and stormed Bruce's high-rise headquarters, but Bruce had anticipated this and rigged the top floors of the building with explosives. And when the Party Animals had attacked the building, he blew up the top floors while they were climbing the stairs. Nobody was killed, but the building was blasted into the shape of his cowl, with the flames in the building representing Batman's eyes. Bruce was able to take one of the Party Animals' helmets from the scene of one of their fights, and as Bruce examined this helmet, he had figured out that it was wired with advanced electronics, including a global information system which gave the wearer directions to where the next attack was planned. And Bruce had initially attempted to hack the helmet, but he was unable to. However, he believed that his childhood friend Eddie, who was an absolute genius with electronics, may be able to decode the information. He had went to his friend's regular poker game for the first time in months, and Bruce had showed them the helmet, claiming that he had found it while working on the cleanup from the City Hall attack. And as Bruce expected, Eddie recognized the GIS and eagerly snatched the helmet, excited to work on such advanced technology. And while playing poker, Bruce had begun to attempt to get information from his friends which would help him figure out the Party Animals' motives. Bruce had originally asked Ozzy, a small-time hustler, if the party animals were muscling in on any gang's territory, but Ozzy had simply replied saying that the party animals were destroying the city and word on the street was that they murdered any crime lord who tried to talk to them. Bruce then questioned Harvey, who worked at the DA's office, if he thought the attacks could be linked to the upcoming mayoral election. But Harvey had said that this was unlikely, as Gordon was predicted to lose the election long before the party animals had come to town. However, Harvey had also heard that Gordon's opponent, Hamilton Hill, had recently come into a huge amount of campaign funds that he called the Golden Chest. Later, Bruce had broken into Hill's campaign office, which was in the same building where he kept the Batmobile. Bruce had gained access to Hill's computer and found a folder named Arkham, and Bruce had thought that he had found what he was looking for, as an Ark is a golden chest. However, when Bruce had opened the file, the party animals' leader, Roman Sionis, appeared on a nearby bank of TVs and told Bruce that he had walked into a trap, and both the party animals and the GCPD were about to breach the building. And Roman also told Bruce that if he was able to get out alive, he would give him anything that he wanted to go away. A group of party animals then bursted in, but Bruce had fought his way past them and jumped down an elevator shaft to the Batmobile. Bruce then climbed into the vehicle's cockpit through a roof hatch and found Alfred waiting for him inside. Alfred then asked Bruce to hear him out, telling him that the party animals were more than they appeared and they could help each other out. Bruce then agreed, and Alfred had said that they first need to get out of there. Due to the vehicle's size, Alfred believed that the cockpit was just a hidden room, and Alfred asked Bruce if he had a car nearby, but Bruce had replied, "You're standing in it," and he had fired up the Batmobile, driving it through the wall of the building. They thundered down the streets, pursued by the police and party animals. Bruce had told Alfred that his 30 seconds started now, and Bruce had also ordered Alfred to take the rear gun turret, and while shooting the party animals' tires out, Alfred had told Bruce that he believed Roman Sionis, the leader of the party animals, was also Black Mask, a notorious underground mercenary figure. And if that was true, then Sionis had unlimited resources and could not be stopped. But Bruce had just told Alfred that he would build bigger, but Alfred then told Bruce that he could never build big enough for what he was facing. However, if Sionis had offered Bruce a deal, then he was probably almost done in Gotham, and most likely just wanted a free hand to operate for a little longer. Alfred had advised Batman to save lives by diplomacy and to make a deal and stand down, saying that in return, Sionis would probably reduce his attacks and give Bruce enough money to actually make a real difference in Gotham. But Bruce refused to just let Sionis get away. But Alfred had promised that his agency would track the transaction and eventually be able to arrest Sionis. They reached the docks and were cornered by the GCPD. Alfred had told Batman that they make a good team and they should keep it going. Alfred had asked Bruce if he had something to get them out of there, and Batman told him to pull a lever in the gun nest, which actually triggered an ejection. As Alfred pulled the lever, it rocketed him into the air, as Batman then sealed off the Batmobile and drove it into the bay, with Batman then driving through an underwater tunnel to a nearby Batcave. Later on, Bruce went to see Eddie and asked what he had learned from the helmet. Eddie had told Bruce that the helmet network not only provides targets for the wearer, but also valuations. For every crime committed, the wearer was rewarded with a certain amount of underground currency called Black Coin, and Bruce had asked if there was a way to take down the network, but Eddie had replied that it is satellite based and there are thousands of members with the masks, making the network impossible to disrupt. Eddie had advised Bruce to destroy the mask and stop whatever he was doing. This is when Bruce had then received a call from Harvey, the person that he had asked to look into the Arkham Fund. Harvey had told Bruce that most of the fundings came from a company called JK Holdings, whose main business was building private black site prisons that appeared to be using the inmates as subjects for medical experiments. And Bruce then further researched JK Holdings and discovered that they have a secret, unregulated prisons known as ARCs all around the world. And the latest one, Arkham, was currently under construction on an island off the coast of Gotham. Bruce had looked at the site from across the bay with a surveyor's scope and saw that it was a massive compound, with Bruce now realizing the sheer scale of what he was going up against. The next day, Bruce goes to Martha's apartment first thing in the morning. He suggested that she lie low until the chaos in the city dies down. But Martha had told Bruce that that would be impossible, as she had just accepted Gordon's offer to be deputy mayor, and Bruce had warned Martha that she was putting a target on her back, but she said that she believed in what Gordon was trying to do and wanted to help rather than just sit by and watch the city collapse. Bruce had asked what she would do if it was all too big, and she replied that even then, you have to try anyway. And that's what his father would have done, with Bruce simply replying, "Look how it turned out for him." And Martha had said that she would kiss him so she didn't slap him, before then leaving. And on the anniversary of his father's death, Bruce returned to the zoo, which had been shut down years ago after the shooting. Bruce had contacted Sionis through the helmet, and Black Mask offered him $200 million to stand back for a week, and had said that in return, the party animals will reduce their attacks, and Bruce reluctantly had taken the deal. Bruce took Sionis' money, but as soon as it was wired to his account, he withdrew it all and used the cash to build a giant bat symbol on the memorial light. And Bruce then went to an agreed meeting with Black Mask, and when he got there, he remotely switched on the spotlight, creating a huge bat signal in the sky, showcasing that he would not simply step aside, and the party animals had charged him, but he had easily fought them off, until Sionis had snipers starting to fire on his own men. Bruce then tried to shield the party animals from the gunshots, and Sionis took the opportunity to trap him in a net. Sionis told Bruce that he had thrown away his big chance, and Bruce grabbed Sionis. Sionis dislocated Bruce's arm, but he was able to take the opportunity to place a tracker on Sionis. Bruce then revealed that he had a hidden camera on the roof, and everything had been broadcasted to all of the news stations in Gotham, so that the people would be inspired to stand up against the party animals. And an incendiary device he had left had been set off, burning all of the money away. Sionis mocked him for believing he had achieved something and told him that the money was the only hero in this story. The party animals had beat, stabbed, and set Bruce on fire before then pushing him off of the roof. Bruce managed to slow his fall with a parachute, but still crashed hard onto the ground and started fleeing on foot. But the GCPD spotted him and gave chase, even firing on him with a minigun from a helicopter. He ran into a parking garage to escape into the tunnels. But Barbara Gordon had followed Bruce into these tunnels and hit him with her squad car. She then got out and pointed her gun at Bruce as he climbed, but Bruce, defeated by what had happened, simply told her to shoot him. But she had actually let him go. Bruce had made his way to the cave and tried to tend to his own wounds. That is, before Alfred had come into the cave, telling Bruce that he would never help him again, and everything that happened just now was on his head. Bruce had gone to his old friend Wayland's gym, revealing his identity as Batman in the process, and the city is spiraling into chaos with the party animals taking over Gotham, as well as the mayor James Gordon having a $1 million bounty on his head. And Bruce was then shown flying on a plane piloted by his friend Ozzy, who is angry that Bruce would withhold the secret that he is Batman. Bruce had then dove out of the plane before landing on a boat and making light work of the party animals on board, with Bruce even punting this little kid off of the ship as if he was the footballer Mbappe himself. And Bruce continued to pummel the party animals out of rage, with one of the party animals eventually wrapping a metal wire around Bruce's neck. But all that this accomplished was angering Bruce even more than he already was, leading to Bruce smashing his bat ears through the party animal's mask. And it was then revealed that not only does Gordon have a $1 million bounty, but also Martha Wayne. And just as a party animal was apologizing to Martha Wayne before attempting to murder her, Martha's bounty had been set to 0. This is due to Bruce shutting down the party animal server on the boat that he was on, meaning that the party animals no longer had an incentive to murder Martha Wayne or James Gordon, and Alfred was then shown pulling Bruce to safety, with the excuse being if he had to stick around, so did Bruce, with Alfred even patching up Bruce's injuries. And we are then brought a month later, and the city has been placed under martial law in order to protect the city from threats such as Batman. And Bruce then ran into an old friend named Matches Malone, and Matches had revealed that he had been working on the inside of Arkham. But this is when something extremely strange happened. Matches began stuttering his words before he would then combust, with his own blood leaking out of all of his pores, with the only cause of this seeming to be a biological weapon, as well as Bruce's friends believing he was dead for an entire month as Batman had disappeared and Bruce was lying low, and they were rightfully upset. And this is when Bruce then went to investigate Nori and Victor Freeze, hoping that he could somehow link something with Victor Freeze and what happened to his old friend Matches. And what Bruce was met by was an absolutely horrifying version of Victor Freeze. And this is when their son, Victor Jr., seems to have transformed into somewhat of a monster before then grabbing Bruce by his face and telling him to go to the land of ice. And that's gonna be all for today, as this is the most recent issue of Absolute Batman that is released. And if you enjoyed today's video and would like to support me, then you can leave a like and subscribe. It is completely free on your end and helps me out way more than you may think. And also, let me know in the comment section below, what was your favorite moment of Absolute Batman so far? And if you would like to interact with me, my community, show off your art, drop some memes, talk in general, or maybe even self-promote, then you can join the Discord that can be found in the description box below. But that will be all for today's video. Thank you so much for watching until the end, and I'll see you guys in the next one. Bye!